Pay It or Slay It is back, guys. Season 2. Stay tuned where I pay it or will I slay it. Hey Frontline fans, welcome back to Comic Frontline, and fans, you're back with me, Mike Spider Slayer, again ready to bring you Season 2 of Pay It or Slay It. Now, if you guys are not familiar with this video series, this is the series where I take a random of 10 comic books, and I actually make the decision on if you should pay for it, or if you should slay it. Or, you know, just drop it, whatever it is. If I slay a book, it's got to be really, really poor for me to actually tear that book up. Because I know these guys work really hard in these books, and I don't want to do that. So, first things first, let's talk about the first comic book. And that first one is, bam! Superman, issue number 29. This one has Superman as maybe a possible Yellow Lantern, right? I mean, that's what it shows on a comic. No, it's not. Superman becomes Parallax, and it is a very creepy book. It has this kid being possessed by Parallax. It's just super creepy and super eerie when you actually read this book. All these kids are getting kidnapped, and we don't know what the mystery is until you find out that Parallax, again, is possessed by this kid. He's been drawing off of all their fears, and his goal is to possess Superman, and Superman becomes Parallax, and it makes for an awesome, awesome comic book. I love this. And what's cool about this is I love the Super family. I love Lois, and I love John. But however, I feel like we've been getting an oversaturation of the characters, and this is great because this is just Superman in here. And this was a great story, so I definitely say pay for this book. Go out and read Superman issue number 29. All right, next book we're going to be talking about today is, bam, whoa, back-to-back Green Lantern books. This is issue number 29 as well. This is the Jessica Cruz and Simon Baz story, and this has to do with the story with Valthoom as he's going to get ready to destroy planets. And it's Jessica Cruz's job to train these 7 first Green Lanterns. That's her job. Simon Baz can't do too much because he doesn't have a power ring at this moment. And somehow, our Green Lanterns have to make their way back into the present. And you find themselves struggling to train these lanterns. They're all in for it for themselves. Oh, they're like, oh, I have the Green Lantern power. Why should I help you, Jessica Cruz? But in the end, they wind up seeing this unforeseen future. These Green Lanterns come together, and by the time we get to the end of it, it looks like they're going to save the day. The book spends a lot of time on this arguing and bickering back and forth, and I felt like it was kind of a slower issue, and but nevertheless, I still really enjoy Green Lanterns. It's a good story. The artwork was different this time around. It's not its normal artist, and what I do think that the book has done a great job in is developing its characters. So, yes, Green Lanterns 29, I definitely say pay for the book. All right, next, the book we're going to talk about is, bam, The Amazing Spider-Man Renew Your Vows, issue number 10. I think this book has been fairly consistent. Sorry, I got to plug in my computer before my battery dies in it. So yeah, going back to The Amazing Spider-Man Renew Your Vows, I think this book has been fairly consistent, and this time around, it focuses on Norman Osborn Jr. And again, another book that's been focusing on each individual character and growing the characters. And that's what I could appreciate about this particular book. We have Norman Osborn Jr. It's his birthday. He hates his birthday. And then in the meantime, we see Spider-Man who's fighting the Lizard. And the Lizard wants a cure for his son. I think it's Connor, And so he goes to Norman Osborn, and he invades his business and whatever it is, and we wind up seeing Spider-Man kind of saving the day. Norman Osborn Jr. resents Spider-Man because he feels that it's Spider-Man's fault why his father died, why he let his father die if it was his best friend. We also realize in this book that Norman Osborn Jr. has been taking the Green Goblin serum in low doses, and we're going to see him become the Green Goblin in the near future. Hopefully, maybe in the next actual issue, because that's what it teases. This book has been really, really good. I've enjoyed it immensely. I think you guys should definitely pay for the book. Pick it up. It's very consistent. I feel it's one of the best Spider books to date right now. So, Amazing Spider-Man, Renew Your Vows. Definitely pick it up, guys. Alright. Next, we're going to be talking about, bam, Injustice 2, issue number 8. Really great series. I think Tom Taylor's hitting it out of the park. This time around, we wind up seeing that Dina and Ollie had their kids kidnapped, and so they have to rescue the kids. And Batman feels that there's this perfect person to recruit to try to save the day or to try to rescue the kids, and that's Plastic Man. So it's really cool. We've recently seen announcements that Plastic Man was returning. He makes his return here in Injustice 2, and not only is his father involved, but his son is involved as well, which I think is really awesome. We also get to see Damian resurrect Alfred in this particular issue as well. Now, he's not old Alfred like we see him. He's still like crippled Alfred, where he's like in the wheelchair. He's like, he's still like almost like a corpse. However, he is living and breathing, and Ra's al Ghul actually sits there and threatens Batman and says, hey, I'm going to kill your butler again. And then Damian's not too fond of that. Overall, book has been phenomenal. I loved every single issue about Injustice 2. It's great to see these heroes come together and try to also avenge Ted Kord, because he wound up getting killed. Great book. I think you guys should definitely pay for this book. So that's Injustice 2, issue number 8. Next book we're going to talk about is, bam, the conclusion to Totally Awesome Hulk, or to the Weapons of Mass Destruction, takes place in Totally Awesome Hulk issue number 22, where we get to see, all our heroes come together and try to save the day, of Weapon X creating these huge mass, mutant-like Hulk creatures. It's been a phenomenal series. The character development in this series has been great. It's a crazy cast of characters that you never think would work in a comic book, but they actually do work. And the action in this particular issue has been actually outstanding. We wind up seeing this crazy, like, deformed Hulk with Wolverine claws. Then you get to see another gray Wolverine-like Hulk that has a little bit more intelligence, and we wind up seeing the professor, or the doctor, who created these Hulk specimens, and she was the best character of all in this particular issue because she loves seeing her work. All that lifelong work that she put into creating these creatures has finally come to life, and actually one of them escapes in the end. He destroys the lower level Hulk, and he just disappears. So technically it's not the end of this particular Hulk. We're probably going to see him in the future. But what this story did really well is to produce the Weapon X team. And for me, this was the best crossover event of the year, and probably one of the best stories overall for the year. There's a great humor, great action in this story, and if you guys have never read this particular issue or series in single issue form, when the trade comes out, I suggest that you pick this up. I think it's really well written, and it probably will read better in a trade. And just all the different emotions in this book between the doctors, how Weapon X works, how Totally Awesome Hulk doesn't want life to be killed because there is a civilization above the Weapon X grounds. It just makes for a great story. So definitely, guys, pay for this book. You won't be disappointed with Totally Awesome Hulk issue number 22 or the overall story of Weapons of Mutant Destruction. So it'll be interesting, though, to see now where this team goes going forward now that this initial story arc is over. All right, the next book we're going to talk about is, bam, Invincible, issue number 139, The End of All Things, part 7 of 12. On the cover here, we see Anissa. This is the girl who actually raped Mark, and she's the one who wound up having his baby. And Adam Eve actually finds that out, I think, in this issue. Now, this particular last story arc has been pretty much balls to the walls. We have the Vulture Mites crossbreeds doing battle against, the Coalition, and it's just been one death after the other, and we get to see General Thrag not care about his kids. All he wants to do is win this war and defeat Mark and defeat his father and win. That's all he cares about. Doesn't care about the kids, and we really get to see that. And we wind up seeing one of the main daughters here talks to all her brothers and sisters and says, we don't need to fight anymore. We just need to, surrender. And that's what you wind up seeing. Mark's dad looks like he's still barely alive in this particular issue. By the time we get to the end of it, we get to see Robot come in, and he actually tries to save the day and tries to work with Mark, which I thought was really cool. And again, we get to see Anissa in this book basically confronting Eve and saying, I'm sorry on what I did to him, and you wind up seeing her perish in this particular book either. Now, some will say that, I'm over this story, there's no need for it anymore, let's just end the series now. I agree, it seems like it's a little bit dragging, there's too much fighting, but we're going to see now where these last 4 issues go before this series comes to a wrap-up. I'm interested to see what Robert Kirkman does for it. So, if you've been invested with Invincible all this time like I have, you have to pay for the book and read it to its conclusion. So, go out there and pay for it. Next book we're going to be talking about is, bam, XMen Blue, issue number 9. It's funny, I get a comment on this book when I did my haul for it, and I said, the font needs to be blue because it's blue, and it makes sense. But I think they made it green because it's the Hydra tie-in, the whole Secret Empire tie-in. Anyway, probably like one of my favorite covers to this series is this series for this week is actually XMen Blue. I love Polaris as a character. She's a great character. I loved her from the 90s, Magneto's daughter or whatnot, and she makes her appearance in here. And you wind up seeing her actually fight against Havoc and try to destroy all the mutants that are in New Attilan or Attilan or whatever you say. And it was cool to see all these mutants fight together. The main thing in this particular issue is Emma controlling Scott. She basically misses Scott so much, she's going to control the young Scott Summers. And she tries to control him and pretend that she is the true Scott Summers, and it was kind of creepy to actually see that, and it was pretty cool. And basically, again, this issue was one big fight as well, and we wind up seeing that our mutants prevail. The Danger Room was involved in the fight as well. And they wind up saving the day, and I thought it was kind of cool. And then what happens is Emma winds up coming up with another master plan to try to, I guess, take over New Attilan or Tillin or Tian or Utian or whatever. New Attilan is Inhumans, isn't it? Anyway, it all has to do with this Secret Empire stuff. Pretty cool issue. The issues have been inconsistent in my opinion, but it was good to see Emma Frost get her own in this one. So, pretty good. So, if you like X-Men and you like more of a classic feel to the X-Men, I think this one, hits it pretty good. So, I say go out there and pay for the book. Alright, next book we're going to talk about is, bam, Spider-Man 2. The Miles Morales and Peter Parker team up. And on the cover here, we see Taskmaster. Taskmaster's involved in this issue, and I think it's really cool. In the opening pages, you see him, and they're just like, dude, what's up with you? And he's got this big sword, and it's like you can chop someone's head off in this one. And Taskmaster's hilarious in this book. He's just like, you guys just piss off, leave me alone. And we wind up finding out that there's another Miles Morales, and this is bugging the shit out of Miles because he witnesses a conversation that Taskmaster has on the phone that he's talking to a Miles Morales. So after a battle with Taskmaster and he escapes and doing this job, we wind up seeing that Peter hires Jessica Jones to try to look into things. The great thing about this issue, there was real comical moments with Jessica, how she was investigating, trying to find out if there was another Miles Morales in this issue. And by the time we wind up getting to the end of it, there was no other Miles Morales on record, at least. So as you see Taskmaster take off into this jet at the end of it, he's with this mystery Miles Morales, and he finds out there's a Miles Morales, the new Miles Morales, and he tells Taskmaster to turn around and kill both of them, or whatever it is. So it creates a pretty good mystery. Artwork by Sarah Pacelli is absolutely gorgeous. Great moments in here with Jessica Jones, and I kind of like the way Taskmaster looked in this issue. I loved his weapon, and his humor in here too. So I think some people might not be on board for this Spider-Man 2 series, but I'm enjoying it so far, so I say pay for it. All right, next book we're going to talk about is, bam, Generations Wolverine. That's what it is, an all-new Wolverine. So I'm going to say that right here. If you don't want to pay $5 for this book, I say slay it. If you enjoy one-shots with some of your favorite heroes for stories that are not going to mean anything for the future, I say pay for it. This book has a nice little story with Logan. Obviously, when he's young, he's trying to rescue his daughter. He teams up with Laura. She, gives him some, down-to-earth, moments on, loving your daughter and things like that, and taking time for the small things, and a lot with a whole bunch of ninja hand fighting action. That's what this book had. Long book, but probably still takes you 5 minutes to read. So take it or leave it for what it is. If you miss Wolverine being young, you might enjoy this book. That's the one thing I did miss when I read this. I'm like, man, I miss Wolverine when he was young. He's just a badass, He's not quite the same when he's older, when he's old man Logan. Even though he is still cool, I just miss young Wolverine. And it was cool to see Laura and Wolverine team up in this book. But again, they're mostly fighting ninjas. There's some good character moments in here with Laura and Wolverine. But overall, I would say don't pay for the book. Don't go out there and buy it. It's really not worth the money. All right. So last but not least, we have the last book that we're talking about today, and I purposely saved this one for last, and that is Dark Knight's Metal. Cool cover. Love the cover here. Love the metal embroidery or whatever it is, or font. And yeah, okay. Listen, I'm not a DC historian, so the one thing, though, I do know is that DC loves to go into its history, and it talks about, like Infinite Crisis and all these other things, and DC tends to get confusing for me sometimes. And this book, I want to say, was on the borderline for me, because just when you think they can't provide you with any more information on what this metal is about and how they're exploring it, you're kind of just like, they give you more information, and I'm like, please stop overloading me. This is the first issue. I can't take it from my feeble little brain, I'm not the smartest person in the world. I don't always digest stories maybe like other people do, or don't get quite the history of the DC universe like other people do. But overall, the issue was kind of cool. I like the way it opened up. They're talking about this metal that constricts our heroes, and they're fighting. They're on War World right now, and they wind up getting into like these mechs, and they wind up becoming like this Voltron creature. And I was like, man, this is opening up pretty weird. I didn't expect this to happen. And then it goes into its history lesson as you wind up coming across Kendra in this issue on how they're exploring this metal and how they set Batman up because he's been exploring this dark, what's it called, universe or whatnot that doesn't exist. And it was just, it was a pretty cool issue, but it's just very dialogue heavy and it's exhausting by the time you read it. What's it called? Greg Capullo's artwork is absolutely gorgeous in this particular book, and it is a good book, and it has a lot of history in there, and it tells you about the universes. But by the time I got done reading it, guys, honestly, I was exhausted. Am I gonna read it to continue the main story? Yeah, absolutely. Will I read tie-ins? I'll read tie-ins that have to do with the books that I read currently, but I won't go out of my way for these tie-ins. But overall, I thought the book was cool. I like how Batman was kind of exploring, things that he's not supposed to be exploring. But it was cool. It was all right. You get to see little hints of, like, Steel, and you wind up seeing little hints of Plastic Man in there. So, again, okay, overall book. I know a lot of people are going to love this, so I say pay for the book. Go out there and read it, especially if you're a DC fan, a Batman fan. I think you're going to really enjoy this. So, guys, there you have it. There is the first episode of Season 2 for Pay It or Slay It. Now, I want to hear it in the comments below. Keep the discussion going on what books you want to pay for, which books you want to slay. And fans, as always, thank you for watching Comic Frontline. Don't forget to check us out on comicfrontline.com. Don't forget to watch our live show each and every Tuesday night. Starts around 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we talk about our favorite comics of the week and we talk about the comics weeks of news. And fans, again, thank you for watching. And until that next comic book review, this is Mike Spider Slayer signing off. Take care, fans. Bye.